Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. This evening we read from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, 4th chapter, text 31 and 32. It's one and a half verse. Okay. Nayam loko asti ayakyasa kuto anya kuru sattama. I also read the next. Evam bahu vidha yakya vittatha brahmano mukhe karmachan vidhi tan sarvam evam gyatva vimokshase. Nayam lokostya yakyasya. Nayam lokostya ayakyasya. Kotonya kuru sattama. Kotonya kuru sattama. Evam bahu vidhayakya vittata brahmano mukhe karma chan vidhitan sarvam evam kyatva vimokshase. Na, never. I am this loka, planet. Asti, there is. Avakyasya, for one who performs no sacrifice. Kuta, where is. Anya, the other. Kurusattama, no, Kurusattama. Yeah. Kurusattama, O best amongst the Kurus. Sa Uttama. Sa Tama, it means like the best. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Purport. Whatever form of material existence one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one struggling on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the paths of religion, dharma, economic comfort, artha, regulated sense gratification, kama, and then last, the means to get out of the miserable condition entirely, moksha. The path of religion or dharma, or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above, automatically solves our economic problems. By performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. even if there is a so-called increase of population. When the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, a sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Thereby, one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice, as described above. And in previous verses. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect a happy life even in this body, and what to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets, and in all cases there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. Evam bahu vidha yajna vittata brahmano mukhe karma chan viditan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. And the next verse. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Purport. Different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. Nayam loko styavakyasya, Nayam loko sti ayakyasya kutonya kurusatama. Evam bahu vidhayagya vitata brahmano mukhe karma chan viditan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. You have your airplane modus switched off phone? Switching off phone.
I didn't bring my phone.
Switched off? Okay. Then we can start. Flying off. Yeah. I forgot it. I had to switch it off also. Otherwise I get a call from somebody maybe in the class. I'm speaking loud enough?
Yes.
Huh? Clear? That they come more near? Now you hear me? Clearly? Yeah, this I want to know. You see, somebody spoke through you. So, this whole Vedic program It's actually meant for the people, for man. They all come from Manu, Manushya. Manu, he was one of the sons of Brahma. And Brahma had a great interest because he was empowered by the Lord to sacrifice, to make creation, secondary creator. This is described. Sorry. Yeah. There's a chapter in the third canto, chapter 12, the creation of Kumaras and others. So I want to read a section from here. O learned Vidura, Maitreya speaking. Thus I have explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his feature of Kala. Now you can hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. Sasacha Grenta Tamishram Atta Tamishram Adikrit Maha Moham Cha Tamas Chagyana Vritaya. Brahma first created functions of nations, tamasa, like self-deception, tama, the sense of death, anda tamishra, anger after frustration, tamishra, the sense of false ownership, maha moha, and the illusory bodily conception, moha, or forgetfulness of one's real identity. These are the 5 symptoms of ignorance. The function of ignorance, or tamasa, has already been established from beginning. At the beginning of the daily creation, they make their appearance in various forms, starting with tamas, directly from Brahma. Tamas means ignorance of the swarup of the jiva. Moha means the identification of the self with the body, etc. Mahamoha means applying possessiveness to objects of enjoyment. Tamishra means the appearance of anger within the mental functions when one's enjoyment is abstracted. And Anda Tamishra means awareness of that. But that is not present in the jiva, na hanyate hanimani sharire, as pointed out in Bhagavad-Gita 2.20. The concept that the soul dies is created by ignorance of avidya, ignorance. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, avidya asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha. Ignorance, tamas, false identity, moha, attachment, maha moha, repulsion, tamishra, and fear of death, anda tamishra, are the 5 types of ignorance. They're also known as avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, like this, the same meaning. So after this, Brahma, of course, was not fully satisfied with only creating nations. So he also wanted to create opposite of nations, What is opposite of nations? Opposite of nations, of darkness or ignorance. Huh? Knowledge. Knowledge. And knowledge appears in the mode of goodness. So therefore he created the Brahmanas, the sages, the Kumaras. The Kumaras are the Vedic sages, the Brahmacharis, who were empowered to spread Vedic knowledge. And he also created the human species, beginning with Manu. Swayambhuv Manu is the first Manu, son of Brahma, who appeared from his mind, no? Or some also say from his heart, because humanity are very dear to Lord Vishnu. Humanity are very dear, because in humanity they have one specific qualification, that they can perform dharma. Animals, they cannot perform dharma. Plants cannot perform dharma. The demigods, they are already situated because of their pious activities or previous lives, qualification on heavenly planets. And that the demons were adharmic. And that means asuras and rakshasas. And then those were in higher species of life. Due to their pious activities they have certain privilege for sense gratification in higher planetary systems. So Martya Loka, in the middle planetary system of Bhuloka, the Earth, here humanity has a special privilege to perform dharma. Dharma means obligations, duty. Duty to the demigods, duty to the Lord Vishnu, the creator of the universe. Then the duties for pleasing the demigods. The devatas were in charge for the different functions and regulations of the seasons and climates, etc. The demigods, devatas are in charge. And we are also indebted to the forefathers, to the pitris, to the mothers, the fathers. Therefore there are yagyas also for the fathers and for the mothers, departed, pitri yagya. There's deva yagya. There's Vishnu yagya. Then we also have obligations to the animals, to the plants, who give us all service. So humans, we cannot just exploit the material nature, thinking, they are subordinated to us for our sense gratification, and in this way we can be happy. But actually they never become happy, because happiness cannot become achieved if one is in ignorance. Of course, if knowledge is absent, then ignorance is bliss. For certain people who don't know knowledge, who don't know goodness, ignorance is bliss. Tamaguna is bliss. Rajaguna is bliss. It's also called Ananda. Like many times I told the story of this sannyasi whom Lord Chaitanya met when he was went to the Ganga. He wanted to visit Advaitacharya in Chantipur. So there was one specific sannyasi who was actually a drunkard. So he invited Lord Chaitanya. He was in Grihastha before he took sannyas with Nityananda Prabhu together. Please come, be my guest. I want to give you Ananda. So Lord Chaitanya, because he is always in the blissfully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, whenever something reminds him about Krishna, like Ananda, a word, immediately his mind became captured and he thought, oh, Ananda, let's get the Ananda. But then Nityananda Prabhu, who is senior, more experienced, he held he kept Lord Chaitanya back and told, don't go, because this Ananda is not that Ananda what you searching for, or what you experience. So it is the Ananda of drinking alcohol. So for alcoholics, the Anand is drinking liquor, beer, wine, like that. So this is in Tamaguna. So when Lord Chaitanya heard about this, that he was actually a drunkard, but he was dressed in with the dress of a Dharmadvaji, of a follower of Dharma, a sannyasi, a renunciate, who was actually married. But he was an alcoholic also in the same time, drinking some wine, maybe from his Durga Yagya, because they worship, many in Bengal, they worship Durga or Kali, so they offer wine and like that, untouchable things to her, not to Vishnu. And they consider this also as prasad and Anand as something pleasurable. So Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda immediately they felt themselves contaminated just by this kind of association and words from that man. So they immediately jumped in the Ganga to become purified from that association or influence. So that's the only way if one comes in contact with Vishayi or those who are addicted to sinful life, not following any dharma, not following any yagya, who make their own rules and regulations in or standards, where they feel this is we are in modern time, we are modern people. These Hare Krishnas and Vedic followers, this is all Puranic time, this is old age. It's nothing for the new time. We have to live more scientific world and up to date. We have to become more modern, more normal. So let's enjoy, because even if there is a life next time, we don't know. They're in ignorance. We don't know if there is life in next life. But why we should wait for next life? Let's enjoy now, because now we have the guarantee, now we have the opportunity to enjoy it. Let's do it now. Therefore, somehow or other, let's enjoy these material senses. And in this way, they consider this happiness. But happiness is not available by hunting after the sense objects, after sensual pleasures. Because the more we become eager for sensual pleasure or attached to it, then we become unhappy. We become frustrated. The result is frustration, unhappiness, dissatisfaction. Because we're actually thirsting after happiness. That's the nature of the soul, Anandamaya Abhyasad, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is always in Ananda. Anandamaya Abhyasad. He is always never in touch with Nirananda, with the material so-called happiness or with the misery. He is always in Ananda. Therefore, Lord Nityananda is Nityananda. He is always full of Ananda. He is never miserable. So the Supreme Lord never becomes miserable. He is always absorbed in the supreme bliss in the spiritual world. Therefore, the spiritual world is called Vaikunta, and the material world is called Kunta. It's miserable place. So only opportunity to become free of this misery. There are three main miseries. One we already have behind us, it's Janma. But we have three still ahead of us. It's old age, disease, and death. It's misery. But people are not prepared. They're still, although they're diseased, they're drunkards, They're drug addicts because they have to take so many tablets and intoxicants that they even can sleep, that they can calm down their mind and their senses from their heavy jobs and engagements and absorption in so many materialistic activity, in accumulating money and powers and control. It's a poor life. It's a completely crazy. It's pramata. Therefore, Bhagavatam says it's pramata. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. Vikarma activity is pramata. It leads to madness. But a mad person, you cannot tell you're mad. He becomes angry upon you. But people are mad and become more and more mad for sense gratification. Because they are not able to control senses. They also don't see the need to control the senses. They think this is the only thing what we have. Let's increase it as much as we can, even in the diseased position, even in the time of death. On the deathbed, they're still making plans, all kinds of plans, to increase more and more their ambitious desires and plans, who are all doomed, to become destroyed from the time factor. The time factor is Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm the time, Kala Asmin. Nobody can escape the time. So the time is Krishna, and everyone is under this influence of the time. And therefore Shukadev Goswami, he told to Maharaj Parikshit, don't be afraid of your time. You think you have only 7 days left. But there was one king, Katvanga. He had only 2 muhurtas left. 1.5 hours. One muhurta is 48 minutes. So 2 times 48 minutes, it's little more than 1.5 hours he had time. And he was fighting. He fought on the side of the demigods against the demons, asuras. So when they won, they wanted to give a blessing, an award to Katvanga Maharaj. But Katvanga, he became tired because he only wanted to know, please let me know how much remaining time I have to live. Because I fought for so long time on your side, so maybe I don't have much time left. So please let me exactly know how much time, so that I can prepare myself. So they told him 2 muhurtas. And immediately he made attachment. He was fearless because he was a king. He was a warrior. He had no fear. King, a warrior, kshatriya cannot be fearful. A brahmana is not fearful. Many who are not trained in Vedic culture, they're fearful. Fear of death, fear of diseases, fear to lose something dear. So there's so many fears. But Bhagavatam Katha is the process to become free of fear. Akuto bhayam. This Bhagavatam process makes you free of fear. Fear of lamentation. Because it brings you directly in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So the goal of all yagyas or sacrifice is only attainable in the human form of life. Therefore Lord Chaitanya said, Manusya Janma. Those who take birth in as humans, Parata Bhumite Hoile Manusya Chara, Chamma Satata Karikara, Para Upakara. You have to engage yourself in the Para Upakara, in the supreme occupational duty of a human being, to do good for others, to help others, to remind others about their duty, not duty to maintain family, to the demigods, to the sages, to the forefathers, to the nation, to any living being, to humanity. No, ultimately the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This is our supreme occupation, and everything is related to Vishnu, and therefore to remind all living entities that you are eternal servant of Krishna, that's the supreme occupation, that's the supreme yagya, supreme sacrifices, supreme sacrifice. So here in here in from Bhagavad-Gita 4th chapter, Krishna actually brings the Arjuna and the reader or listener from karma yoga to jnana yoga and ultimately the bhakti. That's the ladder, the steps of to attain liberation ultimately, from karma to jnana to yoga or bhakti yoga. So in these verses, 12 sacrifices are mentioned, beginning from verse 24 to 29. So the summary of these verses is, I will read here. Some mystic perfectly worship the devas by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So the Brahma Yagya, where everything, the offerer, the oblation itself, the place, the gift, the mantra, the result, everything is Brahman. Some sacrifice the hearing process of Shravanam and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses, yama and niyama, offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath, prana, as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing Ashtanga Yoga, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath control, pranayam, to attain trance, samadhi, practice by offering the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance. That means stopping breathing. I think this is called kumbhapaka. Stopping all breathing. Others curtailing the eating process and offering the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life, but to speak of the next. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them appeared of different types of work. Knowing them as such, one will become liberated. The sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So it's three kinds of sacrifices for the body, for the mind, and the words are recommended here by the Lord Himself. And they're already given in the Vedas by the Lord to Brahma. The Brahma became the reservoir of Veda Garbha, and from him he got then this inspiration of Vedic knowledge, where he created the Brahminical culture, Varna, Ashram, Dharma, all the different duties on the basic of Vedic sacrifices to make people happy. And he sent out all his descendants and empowered them, perform this sacrifice for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu, And in this way, you all will become happy, and all your desires will become fulfilled. Real happy. So your desires will become fulfilled. That means the earth will supply enough food, not too much rain, not too less, not too heat, not too cold, like that. Not too much disturbances, like to Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, because he was ideal king, and he performed ideally his Vedic, the citizens according to Vedic program. Therefore, there was no scarcity. And he became so opulent by Krishna's mercy that even Indravati, that means Indraloka, became insignificant in comparison with the opulences of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So the 12 sacrifices, the Brahma sacrifice, the Karma Yogis who worship the Devatas, Karma Kandya, offering oblations into the fire, with a spoon, wooden spoon. Then fourth, brahmacharis sacrifice their senses for the sake of sense control. That means the senses become the fire. Then the grihastas offer sense objects to the fire of the senses for the sake of becoming gradually detached from sense gratification. Then sixth, offering the activities of the senses and prana into the fire of the mind. That means the mind becomes the fire, and the senses and the prana, the air, breathing and like that, is the sacrifice. Then seven, giving in charity, giving in, as a vow for the benefit of others, for the needy. But as already pointed out, the best charity is the para-upakara, the charity to give Krishna consciousness, holy name, books, Krishna prasadam. 8 is tapa, restraint of sense control, sense gratification, tapa, sense control. 9 is visiting holy places, tirtha yatra. So means visiting many holy places is a karma kandya process. It's a yagya and a sacrifice, where one makes a special endeavor to visit many holy places with the purpose to become purified. Because one becomes purified by visiting holy places and taking bath and rolling in the dust and hearing from the saintly persons who reside in that holy place, one become purified. Although Narottam Das Thakur says Tirtha Yatra, that means visiting holy places besides of Vrindavan, it's just the mental concoction and the hard work. So it doesn't recommend. If you reside in Vrindavan, you don't have to visit other holy places. But if you are not on the level to absorb your mind in pure bhakti, in Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness in Vrindavan, then one may go to many holy places to become purified. And then maybe after some time you come to the conclusion, so now what is the use of visiting all holy places? Because all holy places are in Vrindavan, because Radha Krishna are here, Srila Prabhupada is here, all the great acharyas, the 6 Goswamis are here, like that. So this is the top holy place in the whole universe, in the whole world. So if you here ultimately to take shelter in Sri Vrindavan Dham, this is the ultimate perfection of life. Then therefore, Prichabasis, or those who desire, who reside here, they take a vow to never leave Vrindavan. They stay here all the time. I will speak something more about that later in connection with Srila Prabhupada. Where we stay, visiting holy places, and then the 10th studying and reciting the Vedas. There's many you hear also in Vrindavan, and in many places you go. There are always ashrams, sadhus, Babajis who reside and absorbing in studying of Vedic scriptures. They're reciting scriptures, they study, they're absorbed in reading scriptures, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavatam, Vishnu Purana, like that. So they're absorbing. This is very important to absorb in studying and the reciting of scriptures. That's also a yagya. That's a 10th yagya described, mentioned by Krishna here. And the 11th one is a strict breath control, pranayam. Very, not just little, for exercise, for health, but really with the point as to offer the breath into the Brahman, ultimately to attain liberation, to the element, to go from element to element and then ultimately attain salvation or moksha. And then the 12th of the Vedic yagyas is eating control. Means to control the tongue, to restrict eating, avoid certain foodstuffs. For us it's clear, not eating fish, meat, eggs, like that. And also other vegetables and beans and things maybe who are too heavy, one should avoid because they're in the mode of passion and ignorance. So certain food is explained in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, food in goodness, food in passion, food in ignorance. And as devotee we should eat food more in the mode of goodness, and food what is offered as sacrifice to Lord Vishnu or Krishna Prasadam. So eat control, then fasting at certain days. Some they like to fast on Mondays, some on Thursdays, some and Vaishnavas will always fast on Ekadasi, or on the holidays of Lord Krishna's appearance, like that. That's also recommended to this fast as control, not only for health, because if we are fasting for health, this is a mode of ignorance and passion because it's on the bodily concept. But if we are fasting for inner purification, not for health, but for inner purification, to get more pure mind, more detached from the bodily concept, because the more we eat, then the more the senses become strong. So the purpose of eating less or eating only food in the mode of goodness, light food, not so heavy food, then it makes the senses weaker. And that's the nice thing of that is then they don't create so much problem. So in this way you can engage more in devotional service, in spiritual activities, and not so much in external materialistic activities. So therefore to eating control and only eating food that is offered as a sacrifice, prasadam, light food, not so heavy food. Only in certain days, maybe one can take a little heavy on Sunday, but otherwise not fried and so heavy, or too many sweets, because that makes the mind and the senses more passionate, and the body becomes more big, and so many problems are involved in that. And the general thing is, what Prabhupada is pointing out, we should be satisfied with eating the remnants of Krishna Prasadam, and that this is distributed. Even if one is not performed in yagya itself, in any of these 12 yagyas, if somebody gets the prasad or is addicted as a sadhana for prasadam, even if you're not engaged directly in sacrifice, that's also a sacrifice, and become purified. Therefore, prasadam distribution is very important. Give people opportunity to receive Krishna prasadam, so that they become addicted to this kind. Everyone has to become addicted to something. So the best addiction is to become addicted to Krishna prasadam. So it's nothing bad in addiction, but we should not become addicted in false control, in false something what keeps us back in making progress in the purification process and in the enlightenment and in the attachment to Krishna. There we have to be careful that any kind of addiction but keeps you in this material world, we have to give up. This is nisheda. We have to give up. It's not favorable. And that what is favorable, we should accept. Krishna prasadam is very favorable. But if you eat too much Krishna prasadam in the name of Krishna prasadam, then it also can become an obstacle. Everything too much can become an obstacle. It can become a problem. You see, if there is feast, how you feel after the feast, very easy in the mind, almost like an alcoholic. Right? Because so much things are going on in the body by eating too much food. But if you eat regulated, basic food, Prabhupada was very basic in his food eating habits, always eating at the same time, not too much, not too less. He had also his habits, his attachment to certain food, but it was Krishna prasadam. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we know, he was so strict in vows. Even when he was a child, 4 or 5 years old, he ate one mango was not offered to Krishna. So his father told him, "Oh boy, my dear son, this you ate boga now. This mango was not offered to Krishna, it's not prasadam." So the boy took that so serious that he said, "From now on I will not eat any more mango my whole life. I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner because I committed sin to eat mango. It was not offered to Krishna, not prasadam mango." Even when he was a charya, Prabhupada told. And he had many disciples. They brought him, they bring some fruits or flowers to Guru. And whenever somebody brought mango to him, he told, "I cannot accept. Sorry, I cannot accept." And the story behind is that he took the vow not eating mango anymore his whole life. Even as acharya, he was not eating mango anymore. So, I want to tell something about Prabhupada's, about this visiting holy places. Because a devotee like Srila Prabhupada, he always carries he carries Krishna in his heart. He carries his Guru Maharaj's mission in the heart. I think today is also his time when he departed from India on his journey to the West. I don't know, there was some topic this morning? She spoke about it. In?
He spoke Hindi.
In Hindi, yeah. So I also speak something about this now. For those who were maybe not present, I didn't hear. I don't know what they told. But the thing is, Srila Prabhupada is the abode of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. He carried the mission of Lord Chaitanya in his heart. He had great faith in instruction of his Guru Maharaj. and in the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Through his Guru Maharaj, he knew about that, he became convinced. He told in the beginning I was not convinced when I met first time. But then he made me convinced that this is more important than the liberation of India to become own country. So I accepted the mission of my Guru Maharaj and the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Actually, we don't know Lord Chaitanya's mission directly. We can only attain or have access to Lord Chaitanya's mission through the authorized Acharya, spiritual master, who is the embodiment and an empowered person who represents Lord Chaitanya's mission. Of course, Lord Chaitanya's mission is for everyone, but there's an Acharya who is especially empowered, whose faith is unmovable, unwavering. He's very determined to execute the order and mercy, to distribute the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Although it is described that although Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, he was perfectly situated at Radha Damodar on the side of Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami, his the great, most important acharyas who wrote themselves many books on bhakti literatures and commentaries and their own books. So we are their followers. Rupa Anuga, Jiva Goswami, he was a Rupa Anuga, he was the editor of Rupa Goswami's books. He wrote himself so many books. And this all happened in Radha Damodar area, that region, Seva Kunj. And Prabhupada is situated there by Krishna's mercy. He got a place there where he could write his commentaries to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because he knew without these books I cannot go to the West. I need some authority. I need Vedic proof, because people will not accept easily without authority. Of course, nowadays people are so much in ignorance, they don't even ask authority anymore. It only sounds nicely something about spiritual life, they accept. But Prabhupada, he was not a cheap representative. He was a real representative who wanted to give real knowledge to the people, because they have forgotten it. They're in ignorance. He was writing this down in his poem on this Jaladuta when he arrived in America on the 18th September. 17 or 18 September 65. So Srila Prabhupada, normally a sannyasi doesn't leave holy place. He resides there, reciting verses, studying scriptures, chanting. As we hear in Vrindavan, so many sadhus, they chant all the time, mantra, Hare Krishna, other mantras, and also reading loudly, reciting from scriptures. That's their bliss, that's their ananda. And this is an ananda. It's the supreme perfection to perform bhajan here in Vrindavan for the pleasure of Radha Krishna. So this is perfection. But Srila Prabhupada, he was also absorbed in this perfection. But he was not only thinking about himself, he wanted to do something for the mission of his Guru, to help others, to give them Krishna consciousness. That was his yagya. That was his sacrifice. He sacrificed his life to the mission of the spiritual master. This is actually the most important sacrifice. That's not even mentioned in these 12, because this is a transcendental sacrifice. Like Srila Prabhupada told, many things I learned from my father, from my mother, from my teachers, how to cook, how to worship deities, how to play medanga. So many things he learned, etiquettes, Vedic etiquettes and behavior from his Guru Varga. Guru Varga means his superiors, mother, father, teachers, like that, who taught him so many items of Vedic knowledge. But one thing he told, I didn't learn from my Guru Vargas. I learned only from my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that was to print books. This mission, that means the missionary activities. Because missionary activities is a horror for even the Vedic followers who are mostly still attached to Grihastha ashram. It's a horror for them to take sannyas, to renounce family, society, and love and everything, for the improvement of the world, to help the world to become Krishna conscious. And that was Prabhupada's great gift, that he made this sacrifice, sacrificing his own life, his body, mind and words. So therefore he was already a liberated soul. He's anyway Nitya Siddha. But he showed by his own example how to become perfect. By engaging body, mind and words according to Rupa Goswami's teachings. Iha yasya hare dasya karmano manaso gira nikhila pavasasu jiva mukta uchate. To engage body, mind and words in Krishna service. This is, or in bhakti-yoga. This is then you are already liberated. You don't have to be liberated for next life. You're already liberated in this life, because you act on the liberated platform. So Srila Prabhupada told, if maybe we are perfect or not perfect, anyway, the devotee always feels himself not perfect, but if we follow the perfect, that's perfect. We will also become perfect if we are faithfully following the guidelines given by the Acharya. So if we are followers of the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, we have the best example to execute, helping him to execute his mission wherever we are. We don't have to travel around the world. So wherever you are, in every place you are, just speak about Krishna. Just absorb in Krishna consciousness and share Krishna consciousness with others on the basis of Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if we do this on a daily basis and we become attached to this process, like our daily bread or daily drinking water or daily breathing, so our sacrifice is to hear, chant, remember Krishna, to associate with devotees, with saintly people, and hear and chant about Krishna, and exchange Krishna consciousness. Machitamat kata pranas padayantas parasparam katayantas chamam nitya tusyanti cha ramanti cha. Then one becomes happy and satisfied, and there Krishna is present. And because Krishna is present, everything will become perfect. Stop here. Sorry. Hare Krishna, glory to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any question maybe? No, there, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. As it was mentioned, it is very important to visit holy places. My question is like this. What is more important, to visit holy places and make parikrams, or simply to serve the devotees, to make something for devotees, to cook, to wash, different books? What is more important?
As already mentioned, to visit many holy places. Do you mean holy place in Vrindavan or in India?
Yes, when the person is in
Brajman,
for several months, for example, and one people used to go on parikrams to visit some holy places like Vashana and Kamarkan and so on and so forth, and others simply serve, make something for the devotees, cook, wash, or something else. What is more important?
Both is good. Both is good. Both is good.
I know that both, but which is more important?
I know what you want to hear,
Which is
but I say
Which is better?
both is good because you can also serve the devotees if you go on parikrama with them. Understand? If you go on parikrama, you can also serve the devotees. You can serve prasadam, you can wash the clothes there if you like from somebody. Somebody will be happy that they don't have to wash themselves. But maybe not everyone will give you permission that you can wash.
Both ways happy.
Huh?
If one washes the clothes of the devotee, then the devotee has to wait till the clothes are dry.
If you do parikrama, you anyway do it in service attitude. Either in parikrama or in serving the Vaishnavas, not as enjoyer. Or that somebody give you a compliment. Then it's also false ego. So both can be false ego, both can be service.
Thank you very much.
So parikrama is also service. And some maybe have inclination to visit all the holy places in the whole world and whole universe. If they like, they can go. But then ultimately they will realize, they become purified, and that the ultimate shelter is in Vrindavan or in Mayapur Dham. So there's no other shelter. And Vrindavan, Mayapur, not different. They're identical. So there's only Vrindavan Dham left in Kali Yuga with Mayapur together, because in Mayapur Lord Chaitanya appeared. Therefore Lord Chaitanya also became important. Mayapur also became important. And became known now in Kali Yuga as the most important holy place. But we have to do it in the Vrindavan mood. So wherever you are, either in Vrindavan or in Mayapur, be in the Vrindavan mood, not in the Maya mood. Because if you're in Maya mood in Mayapur or in Vrindavan in Maya mood, then you don't get benefit. Understand? So you have to be in Vrindavan mood. And Vrindavan mood means Aradhanam. Radhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Radharani means the supreme servitor. That means doing seva. Seva to the Vaishnava, seva to the Tulsi, to the holy places, to the holy land of Vrindavan, to the dust of Vrindavan, temple service in Vrindavan, to the deity in Vrindavan, prasadam distribution. This is all seva. This is aradhanam. This is the param. That's the supreme kind of service. And the service to the Vaishnavas is even better because it's tadiya. Aradhana, Shiva says to Parvati, Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasma parataram devi tadiyanam samachanam. So tadiya even is better because it's dear to Vishnu or Krishna. If you do service to the Vaishnavas, service to the holy land of Vrindavan, to the cows, to Tulsi Devi, this is Tadiya Seva, Aradhanam. If you do that service, this is very dear for Krishna, very dear to him, So if we can, then it's guaranteed to get mercy, not only from Krishna himself, but by Bhakti Devi, by Bhakti personified, Radharani. She becomes very kind if you do this kind of aradhana, of tadya seva. Yes?
Thank you.
Maharaj, thank you very much for a nice class. As we get older, it becomes difficult to do bhakti. Do you have comments on that?
It becomes difficult to?
Bhakti, devotional service, engage in devotional service. How to engage intensely in devotional service when we get older.
No, he says that if you become older, it's more difficult to engage in physically in devotional service. So how to engage in intense devotional service? That's the question. Okay. As already mentioned, we can engage three things in devotional service. Devotional service is not only with the body. It's also with the mind and also with the words. Therefore, even if your body is not, if you are physically not so much fit anymore due to old age, let's say, or handicapped, still you can speak. Like we have our nice example, our god brother here, Radha Govinda Maharaj, Jai Pataka Maharaj. So many, quite a few, I cannot remember all now, but quite a few of them who are very much handicapped, physically, completely, practically unable, but mind and heart, soul is very clear. And they can speak so much about Krishna, the realization of rasa and bhakti and prema. Because they realize it. Actually, if we are young, we have to use the body. We have to use the body and burn the body in the Sankirtan Yagya. But if problem is many we only engaging the body but not the mind. Not the mind, not the heart so much. We are not dedicating ourselves with the internal cultivation of bhakti and the bhakti process. But it's actually in one sense more important, because if the physical body maybe falls apart due to age or disease, mentally we pray. And it's also not for sure that we can stay clear-minded and absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And this is ultimately, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, many things we can acquire. We can endeavor for it, by sadhana bhakti. Vidhi, even raga bhakti. You can there's a sadhana, to go more deeper in the rag, in attachment to Krishna. Ultimately, for bhava or prema, they're completely dependent on Krishna's mercy, on Bhakti Devi mercy. Kripa. Without Kripa, we cannot attain bhava and prema. We cannot attain it just by sadhana. But that doesn't mean that we have to give up sadhana and just wait for the Kripa. So we have to keep going with sadhana bhakti in vidhi and rag, ultimately. Not artificially, but if it naturally comes. But we have to always develop a sadhana in hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna, either in vidhi or in rag platform. This is sadhana. This is this we can endeavor. And even if the physical body is not able to do it, we can do it in the mind, manasa seva. And manas absorbed in with the antakarana. You know what is antakarana? Antakarana means the subtle body, mind, intelligence, the internal senses, like that. The ego, ego is also antakarana. The chitta, the consciousness. These four things: ahankara, buddhi, mana, and chitta. These four is antakarana. And the antakarana, it's a subtle body. We should not neglect it. We cannot just externally practice and the antakarana we neglect. And then later on we see, we're completely invalid. Not only externally, we're also internally invalid. Because we are not learned how to think about Krishna and how to be conscious about Krishna and serve Krishna with the mind, with the ego, pure ego identification as an eternal servant of Krishna, as Svarup, as a spirit soul, and to engage the pure mind in Krishna's service and the consciousness. So by chanting, actually, this antakarana, who is now polluted due to many impressions from this life and previous life, will become purified. This prarabdha and aparabdha karma become ultimately purified, so that these obstacles who will hinder us to make advancement in attachment to Krishna will be removed.
You said that we should engage our mind and our heart more in devotional services, like by chanting. If we are chanting and we hear, at the same time we focus our mind on some form of Krishna. So is that the right thing to do?
Huh?
Is that the right thing to do?
I don't understand.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah. The last word I didn't understood.
Okay. As we said that we should engage our mind more.
Yeah.
Now while chanting, we do verbally chanting, and we also hear, but should we also focus on some form of Krishna, so our chanting will be complete?
It will, yeah. It is natural. It is natural that after some times of chanting, hearing about Krishna, and association with devotees, hearing Bhagavatam and scriptures, Vaishnava scriptures, that and worshipping deity, you become inclined to a certain form of the Lord, and that form reveals to you, becomes very attractive to you, and becomes like your Ishtadev, the deity of your heart. And that deity of your heart, you always keep like the Lord on the altar on your heart, and you make the temple or the altar there, where you can make the same worship what you do on the altar in the heart. This is it is the same seva. Like this Brahmana in Nectar of Devotion is described, the Brahmana who was not able physically to do this kind of worship of Archana, so he did it mentally. And he got real result, because when he was cooking the sweet rice, and he touched it, and to see if it is cold, because he should not offer to the Lord hot sweet rice. Kheer should not be hot, it should be cooled down. Radharani, she was cooling down the kheer, with the fan, and she was cooking to cool it. So that's described in the scriptures, that you have to cool down the sweet rice. And then, so this brahmana, he did it, and then he wanted to check with the finger if it is still cooled down, that it can be offered to the Lord. Then he burned his finger. And then he came out of trance, then he really saw his finger was burned. So how is it possible? That means his seva, his puja, his bhajan, he was real. Sometimes we think physically I do so much service and this is real. But ultimately, what is real? The physic will fall apart. What is real is ultimately the consciousness. If we do this with the consciousness together, therefore Krishna consciousness. Yeah, no, it's more easy to speak about it. It's if the age is coming when we are faced with certain problems, even the internal cultivation can become difficult. Therefore, ultimately, we are completely dependent on the kripa, on mercy. And I'm 100% sure that if you give your whole life in Srila Prabhupada's service, following his instructions, and engaging in regulated devotional service, that Krishna, Radharani, Bhakti Devi, they will take care. So that ultimately you will come to them, taking shelter in their lotus feet and be engaged in their service in one way or another. So we should not be afraid. Actually, it is the fear that keeps us back. You have to let this fear go and actually develop more and more this faith. Actually, faith is something that is most important. Many times we practice so many things of the bhakti-yoga process, of sadhana and rules and regulations, and of the 64 angas of the bhakti, but actually not with faith. The faith is still weak, shaking. So, therefore I say, Prabhupada's mission became successful. Why? Because he was completely faithful, 110%. His faith was fixed. Understand? Prabhu, understand? You agree? You agree? So, therefore we just have to try to follow Srila Prabhupada. We cannot be like him, but we can try to become small Prabhupada, small followers. Don't try to become a big follower, because everything starts from the small. Sometimes we want to make too many big things in life, and then we fail and then become frustrated. Then we become like the materialist, and then we blame everything. See the fault, give the fault to others, to the institution, to ISKCON, to Prabhupada. Of course, Prabhupada, mostly they're careful, but they blame others. So everyone can blame, but you have to see our shortcomings and be how you say, sincere and honest. Because devotee means we have to be honest and sincere. And be humble, especially humble. That's where the most important qualification. This humility. Because we can see so many things sometimes in devotee. Also in myself I can see, but the humility is always, because this passion always comes up again, for recognition, for results, for achievement, in any way. In smaller or in bigger or in subtle or in goal. Everything can be from the disease of false ego and proud and attachments. We can still, this disease is, hiding somewhere and always, pops up sometimes again, And then we can see, we have to be very careful. It is still there because this lower nature is still here, and at any time it pops up. So we have to always be alert, and therefore always be humble and pray to Spiritual Master and to Krishna and to Ishtadev for special mercy, that you always be humble and not become puffed up and proud and attached. So, can say many things about it, but the time is... okay? Hare Krishna.